Some acts of vengeance cross the line between fury and horror, leaving irreversible tragedy in their wake. In these 5 cases, heartbreak, betrayal, and rage turned into deadly acts, transforming ordinary lives into scenes of unimaginable suffering. Join us and find out how revenge can spiral into shocking, unforgettable consequences. On May 23, 2014, a quiet coastal community near the University of California, Santa Barbara, was shattered by one of the most horrifying acts of revenge in modern history. Isla Vista, usually filled with the sound of laughter and students walking to late classes, became the scene of a meticulously planned massacre carried out by 22-year-old Elliot Rodger. The son of a Hollywood filmmaker, Rodger had lived a life of privilege and comfort, yet beneath the surface he harbored a deep resentment toward women and society. His writings and videos, discovered later, revealed an obsession with rejection, status, and revenge, emotions that would culminate in a night of unimaginable destruction. Rodger's descent into hatred had been long in the making. Diagnosed in childhood with developmental disorders, he struggled to socialize and often expressed feelings of isolation and anger. As he grew older, his inability to form romantic relationships consumed him, and he began to view women as enemies who had denied him affection and validation. He became active on online forums filled with misogynistic ideology, where he identified as an involuntary celibate, or incel. Over the years, he detailed his growing bitterness in journals and videos, culminating in a lengthy manifesto titled My Twisted World, where he announced his intention to carry out what he called a day of retribution. In the months leading up to his attack, Rodger carefully prepared. Between 2012 and 2014, he legally purchased 3 semi-automatic pistols and ammunition. He practiced at gun ranges, studied ways to kill silently, and rehearsed stabbing motions on pillows and bed sheets. Despite signs of instability, including disturbing YouTube videos that alarmed a mental health worker, no intervention succeeded in stopping him. His parents, unaware of the scale of his plans, would later learn the truth only after it was too late. On the evening of May 23rd, Rodger's spree began inside his Isla Vista apartment. Armed with 2 hunting knives, he ambushed and killed his 2 roommates, 20-year-olds Wei-hun David Wang and Chung Yuan James Hong, before stabbing their friend 19-year-old George Chen when he arrived to visit. Each was attacked with overwhelming aggression. Chen was stabbed 94 times. After the horrific acts, Rodger attempted to clean the blood-soaked apartment, showered, changed clothes, and wrote his final journal entry, declaring his hatred toward the world. Before the attack, he uploaded a video titled Elliot Rodger's Retribution to YouTube and emailed his manifesto to dozens of people, including his parents and therapist. In the video, he calmly described his plan to punish women for rejecting him and men for living the lives he envied. Then he set his plan into motion. Driving to the Alpha Phi sorority house, which he had chosen because he believed its members were the most attractive women on campus, Rodger attempted to enter but was locked out. Frustrated, he returned to his car and opened fire on 3 women walking nearby. 2 of them, 22-year-old Catherine Cooper and 19-year-old Veronica Weiss, were fatally shot despite desperate efforts by bystanders and sheriff's deputies to save them. A 3rd woman survived with serious injuries. Rodger then drove to a nearby deli where he fired multiple shots through the window, killing 20-year-old Christopher Michaels Martinez, a UC Santa Barbara student. He continued through Isla Vista, shooting pedestrians and striking others with his car, exchanging gunfire twice with police. The rampage lasted roughly 10 minutes. By the time it ended, 6 students were dead and 14 others injured. Rodger ultimately took his own life after crashing his vehicle. The tragedy left Isla Vista in mourning and raised urgent questions about how such a deadly outburst had not been prevented. Rodger's parents, learning of their son's involvement from news reports, were devastated, having initially believed he was among the victims. In the following months, victims' families filed lawsuits against local authorities, property managers, and the county, alleging negligence in failing to recognize clear warning signs. Some suits were eventually settled for millions of dollars. The Isla Vista massacre became a defining moment in discussions about misogynistic extremism and the dangers of online radicalization. Elliot Rodger's writings and actions inspired disturbing admiration within extremist incel communities, where he was hailed as a martyr, a phenomenon that alarmed law enforcement and researchers alike. In response to the attack, California enacted the nation's first red flag law, allowing families and police to petition for the removal of firearms from individuals deemed dangerous. More than a decade later, the massacre remains one of the most chilling revenge-driven killings ever recorded, a devastating reminder of how hatred, entitlement, and inaction can converge into tragedy. The quiet suburban streets of Markham, Ontario, belied the dark currents that ran beneath one family's life. Jennifer Pan, a 24-year-old daughter of Vietnamese Chinese immigrants, had grown up under intense parental pressure, expected to excel academically, musically, and athletically. Her parents, Beach Ha Pan and Hui Han Pan, had fled Vietnam as refugees, and built a disciplined household in Canada, holding high expectations for their children, Jennifer and her younger brother Felix. For years, Jennifer lived under strict rules. No dating, no parties, and constant supervision. Outwardly dutiful, she cultivated a secret life of deception, forging report cards, pretending to attend university, and secretly maintaining a relationship with her boyfriend, Daniel Wong. Beneath the polished facade, resentment festered, growing darker as her lies unraveled. On November 8, 2010, the Pan household became the scene of one of Canada's most chilling revenge killings. Jennifer, having meticulously orchestrated the events, unlocked the front door to 3 armed men she had hired, who entered the house under the guise of a robbery. The intruders dragged her parents to the basement, covering their heads and shooting them multiple times. Beach was killed instantly, struck in the head, while Han survived but sustained permanent blindness. Jennifer, left unharmed, claimed she had been tied up and forced to witness the attack, even dialing 911 from her waistband as her father emerged screaming from the basement. Initially, police suspected a random home invasion, noting that valuables had been left untouched and Jennifer had not been harmed, raising doubts about the story she presented. Investigators soon uncovered the chilling reality. Jennifer had plotted the attack to gain control over her parents' finances and escape the restrictions of her upbringing. The plan involved multiple accomplices. Jennifer's boyfriend, Daniel Wong, along with Lenford Crawford, David Milvaganam, and Eric Carty, participated in arranging the hit, though who actually fired the fatal shots remains unknown. Text messages exchanged in the hours before the attack, along with her father's testimony, revealed the deception and manipulation behind the night's events. Han, recovering from a coma, recalled seeing Jennifer speak with one of the intruders in a friendly manner, contradicting her claims of being bound and terrified. The evidence painted a picture of calculated vengeance rooted in years of perceived control and betrayal, amplified by financial motives. The legal aftermath was lengthy and complex. Jennifer and her 3 surviving co-conspirators were convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder, receiving life sentences with parole eligibility after 25 years. Carty's trial ended in a separate plea and sentencing, and he later died in prison. Appeals continued for over a decade, with the Court of Appeal for Ontario in 2023 ordering retrials for the first-degree charges while upholding attempted murder convictions. The Supreme Court of Canada confirmed this decision in 2025, highlighting legal nuances regarding whether both parents had been intended targets. Throughout, the meticulous planning, deception, and extreme measures taken by Jennifer marked the case as one of the most horrific and disturbing revenge deaths ever recorded in Canada. Bich Ha Pan was laid to rest in November 2010, her funeral conducted with strict adherence to family customs, while Han's injuries prevented him from attending. Felix Pan obtained a restraining order against his sister, severing all contact. The case remains a stark illustration of the lethal consequences of deceit, resentment, and obsession, demonstrating how a desire for control and revenge can erupt into tragedy within the most intimate family bonds. In 2005, Ghazala Khan, an 18-year-old Danish woman of Pakistani descent, lived a life constrained by the rigid expectations of her conservative Punjabi family. Born in Denmark on October 29, 1986, Ghazala spent much of her youth in Pakistan, where she helped care for her ailing grandfather. Known to friends as thoughtful and quiet, she navigated a delicate balance between cultural obligations and personal desires, a struggle that intensified when she developed a close relationship with Imal Khan, an Afghan-born man living in Denmark. Over 3 years, Ghazala and Imal nurtured their bond in secrecy, meeting discreetly in Copenhagen and exchanging messages while Ghazala feared her family's wrath. Her fears were tragically justified. In February 2005, when she revealed her feelings to her mother, she was beaten by both her mother and her older brother, Akhtar Abbas, and was subsequently isolated by the rest of her family. Refusing to relent, Ghazala fled her family's home on September 5, 2005, to live with Imal and stay with friends, repeatedly seeking police protection that was denied. On September 21st, the couple married at the registry office in Middelfart, hoping to assert control over their lives despite the looming threat from her family. The danger became reality 2 days later. On September 23, 2005, Ghazala and Imal were lured to Slagelse railway station under the pretense of reconciliation. An ambush orchestrated by her father, Ghulam Abbas, and facilitated by 9 relatives and acquaintances who coordinated their plan through constant mobile communication. Akhtar Abbas approached the couple and opened fire. Ghazala was killed instantly, her final moments witnessed by bystanders as she collapsed in the station square. Imal was shot twice in the abdomen but survived following emergency surgery. The attack also endangered a bystander who narrowly escaped stray bullets. Investigations exposed the deliberate planning behind the murder. Ghulam Abbas, a 57-year-old taxi driver who had lived in Denmark since 1970, had ordered the killing to restore what he believed was the family's lost honor. Other family members and associates, including uncles Waliat Khan and Asghar Ali, Aunt Perveen Khan, and friends Ghulam Ahmed, Ansar Iqbal, and Nawid Sharif, played roles in tracking the couple, coordinating movements, and executing the trap. Phone records showed hundreds of calls among the conspirators leading up to the attack. The legal aftermath marked a historic moment in Western Europe. On June 27, 2006, Denmark's Eastern High Court found all 9 participants guilty of murder and attempted murder, with sentences ranging from 8 years to life imprisonment and permanent deportation for several non-Danish citizens. Ghulam Abbas received a life sentence, while Akhtar was sentenced to 16 years. The court emphasized the premeditated nature of the crime and set a precedent in Europe for so-called honor killings. Ghazala's death remains one of Europe's most notorious honor-based revenge murders, a stark reminder of the fatal cost of patriarchal control and the illusion of family honor. Her story is memorialized by a plaque at Slagels's Bannegardsplassen and stands as a symbol of courage and defiance against oppression. Amy Bishop was a figure whose intelligence and ambition had long been recognized, yet by 2010 her trajectory had become increasingly fraught with tension and instability. A Harvard-trained geneticist and assistant professor at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, she had earned academic respect for her research, including patents and postdoctoral work. But colleagues and students described her as unpredictable, abrasive, and at times deeply unsettling. By February 2010, Bishop was 44 years old, married, and the mother of 4 children, facing the imminent loss of her position after being denied tenure in March 2009. Attempts to appeal the decision had failed, leaving her position in jeopardy and heightening a sense of resentment that had been building for years. Those who knew her noticed a marked shift in her behavior, as she became increasingly focused on perceived slights and professional obstacles, setting the stage for an event that would shock both the university and the wider academic community. On February 12, 2010, Bishop attended a routine biology department faculty meeting in the Shelby Center for Science and Technology. Approximately 12 colleagues were present, and witnesses described her demeanor during the first 30 to 40 minutes as calm, almost ordinary. Then, without warning, she produced a Ruger P95 9mm handgun and began firing methodically at those closest to her. 3 faculty members, Dr. Gopi Podila, Dr. Maria Ragland Davis, and Dr. Adriel Johnson, were killed, while 3 others, Dr. Joseph Leahy, Assistant Professor Luis Cruz Vera, and staff aide Stephanie Monticciolo, sustained serious injuries. Survivors described the attack as execution style, noting how Bishop appeared to target her victims deliberately rather than firing randomly. Deborah Moriarty, a biochemistry professor, narrowly avoided becoming a 7th victim when Bishop's handgun jammed as she confronted her, grabbing at Bishop's legs before helping others push her from the room and block the door. Bishop was apprehended shortly afterward outside the building, reportedly in denial, insisting that her colleagues were still alive. Bishop's past revealed a disturbing pattern of aggression and erratic behavior. In 1986, she fatally shot her 18-year-old brother Seth in Massachusetts, initially ruled an accident, though later investigations suggested probable cause for criminal charges. In 1993, she and her husband were questioned in connection with a pipe bomb incident targeting a former supervisor, though no charges were filed. Additional incidents, including a 2002 physical confrontation at a restaurant, reflected a propensity for confrontation and difficulty managing anger. Within UAH, Bishop had earned a reputation for unsettling classroom conduct, alienating students, dismissing graduate students from her lab, and generating multiple complaints about her teaching. Her academic achievements, while notable, were overshadowed by these interpersonal conflicts and disputes over tenure eligibility, leaving her increasingly isolated and frustrated. The aftermath of the Huntsville shootings was profound. Bishop faced charges of capital murder and attempted murder. In September 2012, she pleaded guilty, avoiding the death penalty, and was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Survivors, including Joseph Leahy, carried lifelong physical and psychological scars, with Leahy suffering traumatic brain injury and partial blindness. UAH implemented sweeping reforms in campus safety, including mandatory background checks for faculty, emergency alert systems, and the creation of the Behavioral Evaluation and Threat Assessment Team to monitor faculty and staff exhibiting concerning behaviors. Memorial services honored the victims, drawing thousands to remember Podila, Davis, and Johnson. The case also reopened scrutiny of Bishop's prior actions, including her brother's death, illustrating the devastating consequences of unresolved psychological instability compounded by resentment and access to firearms. Across academia, the tragedy of February 12, 2010, remains one of the most horrific revenge-driven killings in recent history, demonstrating how personal grievances and professional disputes, when combined with mental instability, can converge with catastrophic consequences. The attack left a legacy of loss, trauma, and reflection, serving as a sobering reminder of the importance of recognizing warning signs and taking preventive action before they escalate into tragedy. In the quiet, affluent suburb of Friendswood, Texas, a respected dentist named Dr. Clara Harris seemed to embody success. Born in Colombia, she had built a prosperous life in the United States, running a chain of dental offices with her husband, orthodontist Dr. David Lynn Harris. Together, they raised twin sons and David's teenage daughter from a previous marriage, living in comfort and prominence. But behind the image of stability, their marriage was unraveling. By mid-2002, Clara's suspicions about David's fidelity had grown unbearable. What began as uncertainty turned into obsession, and on a summer night that July, suspicion and heartbreak collided in one of the most shocking revenge deaths ever recorded. On July 24, 2002, Clara confronted her husband after discovering his affair with his receptionist, Gail Bridges. Acting on a tip from the private investigator she had hired to follow him, Clara drove to the Nassau Bay Hilton, the same hotel where she and David had been married a decade earlier. Inside the lobby, witnesses saw Clara strike Bridges in a fit of rage before being escorted outside by hotel staff. Moments later, when David and Bridges exited the building, Clara accelerated her silver Mercedes-Benz across the parking lot. The first impact sent David flying roughly 25 feet. Prosecutors later said that she then crossed two grassy medians, circled back and ran over him again, ultimately stopping the car on top of his body. Her 16-year-old stepdaughter, Lindsay, sat in the passenger seat screaming for her to stop. The entire incident was captured on videotape by the very investigators Clara had hired. The footage, showing her circling the lot multiple times, would later become a centerpiece of the prosecution's case. David was pronounced dead at the scene, and Clara was arrested shortly afterward. The crime shocked the nation, not only for its brutality, but also for its symbolism. A woman celebrated as Mrs. Columbia Houston, a dentist and mother, had transformed in an instant into the perpetrator of one of Texas's most publicized acts of marital revenge. At trial, prosecutors argued that Clara's actions were deliberate and fueled by humiliation and anger. They emphasized her own recorded admission in a police interview that she wanted to hurt her husband. The defense claimed the killing was accidental, contending that her Mercedes could not have turned sharply enough to strike him more than once. They also maintained that the act was a product of sudden passion, not premeditation. Witnesses, including Lindsay, testified that Clara ran over David 3 times, contradicting the defense's argument. The jury saw portions of the video and heard the partial police interview in which Clara expressed rage but not remorse. On February 14, 2003, the date that would have marked the couple's 11th wedding anniversary, Clara was convicted of murder under the Sudden Passion Clause and sentenced to 20 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. She served her sentence at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas, where she reportedly worked transcribing school textbooks into Braille. Her twin sons were raised by family friends, while her stepdaughter and David's parents filed wrongful death lawsuits, resulting in multi-million-dollar settlements. After serving 15 years, Clara was granted parole in 2017 and released on May 11, 2018. She completed parole supervision in February 2023. Upon her release, she appeared subdued yet smiling, walking free after one of the most infamous revenge killings in modern American history. The case left a lasting mark on public consciousness, a story of betrayal, passion, and devastating cruelty that turned love, success, and jealousy into a tragedy broadcast to the world.